This is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. And today would be the 15th of February. It's 10:18 in the morning, and we're warming up here. 59 degrees, high of 66. This will be nice. Sunny through noon, and then we're supposed to get cloudy, and then in the very late afternoon, sun again. It'll be 65 at noon and 65 at 4 o'clock, and then it cools. So at night it's going to be somewhat warmer, like at 9 o'clock it'll be 55, where at 9 o'clock the last quite a few days it would be in the 40s, but we're still getting lows that are very low. Tonight it'll be 45, tomorrow 49. It's going to be in the high 40s for a while. Now, the big issue is coming. There was a storm supposedly coming here on Thursday. Now they're postponing it out to Monday. So that's a week from this coming Monday. That's way too far to predict. And they're coming up with a 35% chance, which is rather low. There's a big storm front that was moving towards us, but it apparently, they were expecting it to change. They said if it hit us the way it is now, it would be apocalyptic, but then it was changing. And a week from today, we're going to have lows in the 30s, which is very cold for us, extremely rare, very, very rare. Even going down to Thursday, the Monday, a week from this coming Monday, down to 37 degrees. That's really cold. So the end of our winter is not here yet. Although no rain will make it more palatable, but that's the weather. Okay. What we're going to cover today is kind of a little interesting. I'm going to give you an analysis of these MOAB bombs that Israel was given by Trump. Whether or not they're in Israel today or not, I don't know. Probably they're here, I don't know. If they came on ship, then they're probably not here. If they're coming by air, they're probably here. I don't know. And we're going to discuss another kind of bomb also that Israel could use if America gives it to it. And the MOAB bomb is not a bunker buster, and I'm going to give you a pretty detailed breakdown on what the thing is. The hostages are scheduled to be released in about 2 hours, a little less, at noon, and all signals indicate they'll be released. You never know, but it looks like they will be. But we need to see if the hostages come out emaciated or whatever. The Muslim media is saying that Putin worked with Hamas to get this release going. One of the hostages is a Russian-Israeli, a dual citizen. So Putin could have went to work on this on behalf of Trump as a good faith. So we're also going to talk about Modi in India and what's going on with that situation, which basically the Arab League turned against Modi for making nice to Trump and saying he'll buy oil from Trump and things like that. Trump is doing reciprocal tariffs with India, which is where Modi is. He runs India. So Modi is now talking about reducing tariffs on American goods so his stuff could sell in America cheaper. He'll probably do it. Modi seems to have a good head for business, but he's never really got Israel, India away from having a massive amount of poor people, tens of millions and millions and millions and millions, so how good could he be, And we're going to analyze what Trump's doing. We're going to focus on Iran. And there's been a big blow up in Lebanon. They injured the #2 guy in the UNFIL, the UN troops. The UN is mad, calling it war crimes. And we'll get through all. It's a complicated thing. It's not hard to understand, but it has a lot of details. And then I'm going to do a pretty good analysis on what it's going to take to get the Middle East to blow up. And you'll see how easy it is going to be. So I'm going to go into the live stream now and make sure we got a live stream and put my posts up, and we'll go from there. Then we'll get started. Okay, we got a live stream. People are coming in. All right. Get my posts going. And I'll get my email address up and we'll get going. Not going to take a long time. But if I talk during my typing, I'll probably make a typo. So I'm going to be a little on the quiet side. Okay, got that done. Now I'm going to do some praise. Being a Bible believing site, there's 20 people in the chat. Let's see how many are still there after I praise God. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. Let's talk about the hostage release today. They built the stage, which is what they normally do. The soldiers are already gathered there, and they're wearing, like wraparound sunglasses and those Arab turbans around their heads, so you can't get any, identifiers on them, That's one insult. They have the pictures of all the dead Hamas leaders as martyrs all around the place. And they have a sign that says something like, Trump, no taking the Gazans out of Gaza, just Jerusalem. So they're celebrating the October 7th massacre by carrying the guns of the dead Israeli soldiers they killed on October 7th. They're telling Trump no evacuation from Gaza but just Jerusalem, which means they intend to continue their attacks. And they're praising the martyrs. And they're giving 3 hostages back today, one of which is a Russian national who came to Israel, so he's a dual citizen, probably because of Putin. And Putin wants more Russian citizens that are also Israelis let go. There's, I don't know how many, very small amount, I think. Trump said, whatever happens with Gaza is up to Netanyahu. So if Netanyahu wants to press the fight against Hamas, he can. And if he doesn't want to, it's okay with Trump. So it looks like it'll happen. Now, if the hostages come out and they're emaciated like the previous 3 or 4, whatever, 3, that's going to make life very difficult for Hamas, and the Israelis are going to get more upset. But see, this more upset is tending to shift into, let's just put up with it and get the rest of the hostages back. What does that mean? It means, oh, we'll withdraw from Gaza on March 1st or the 2nd, whatever the date expires is, because they postponed it a day. It's probably March 2nd. We'll pull out of Gaza, and then we could always go back in. And most Israelis know more missiles are going to come in from Egypt. Okay. They took a poll, whatever polls are good for, and 61% are pushing for the return of all the hostages. So we might see something like that happen. Okay, so it's, I think, something like 600 or 900 hostages being released today for their 3. Now, you know, we could call Netanyahu a moron based on this ratio of Hamas releasing Israeli hostages at the rate of 30 or 40 or more for each hostage of the terrorists that killed or tried to kill Israelis. Now, you could say he's a moron. And based on just looking at the surface of it, yeah, he's a moron. Who would agree to something like that? What world leader? Would even Macron agree to that? Would Putin agree to that? Would China agree to that? Would even Trudeau agree to that? Who would agree to such an idiot ratio? Who? I don't know who. So we got to take a look at, does Netanyahu have a hidden agenda? He can't be the village idiot because he's managed to fight off all his political opponents for over 20 years. He's been prime minister for over 20 years in Israel. He's cut Aliyah down, my guess, I don't know, 75, 80, 90%. He doesn't want them to come in here. It's his fiefdom, his kingdom. He doesn't care about them. They come here You got to teach them the language. You got to help them get started. You got to integrate them into the workplace. He doesn't want them here. He doesn't mind the ultra-Orthodox Jews coming here because they have the support system with the ultra-Orthodox. And they follow the Talmud, not the Bible. They're fine with him. He promoted, these parades through Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, which he holds practically every single year. I think one of the parades got postponed this past year because of missile rocket attacks, but other than that, he holds them every year, and people come from all over the world to celebrate these parades, which is celebrating sexual practices that the Bible severely condemns with a death penalty on it. Now, there are people that say Netanyahu is a Messianic Jew. Other people say that Netanyahu is a godly man. Others say he's an observant Jew. How could any of this be true? How? See, the enemies of Israel try to put as many sins on Israel, get Israel to do as many sins as they could possibly get them to do, because then God's going to punish them, and they know they're the punishment, and they're going to stay in power with their mansions and jets and all the other garbage they collect, right? Do you understand? Do you think he would do those parades if he fears Jehovah? Do you really? I don't. So what is he really doing? He's not for Jehovah. So who's he for? There's no middle ground. Either you're for Yeshua or you're against him. Obviously, he's not for him. Do you understand? This is fake Israel. That's what the ultra-Orthodox think. And they follow the Talmud, so where's that leave them? But their eyes are stopped, and their eyes are closed and their ears are stopped up. So they go through the 2,000-year punishment of Hosea 6:1 and 2, and then God heals them. So they got an excuse. Were the Pharisees and Sadducees against Yeshua? You bet. Got it? So, how much on the side of Bible prophecy being fulfilled is Netanyahu? Pretty dismal. Now, the excuses will flow. Oh, the whole world will turn against us, this and that. America may drop us, and all this, So we'll go pursue a life of sin. He's weird, you know what he is. The end of the age hasn't come yet, so he's still in power. And God knows what he's doing and what God's going to do. You don't have to worry about it. But if you start looking at Bible prophecy and stuff, this is what, and the Bible, this is where you arrive. What I just said. Now, Netanyahu hates Iran because they've given him so much trouble. Okay? So much trouble. So will he attack Iran? He likely will. So we'll talk about the MOAB bombs now. It's 11 tons, which is 22,000 pounds. It's actually about 35 pounds less, or 33 pounds less, or something like that. I think it's 33 pounds less than 22,000 pounds. So it's like 20,000, whatever. I looked it up. It ends in 67, so it's not quite. But anyway, we got the point. 22,000 pounds approximately. The MOAB bomb is not a penetrator bunker buster per se. The Americans did use this, okay, in Afghanistan, and they messed up the tunnels in Afghanistan. How and why did that work? It's an air bomb. It explodes in the air. Okay, it creates a lot of fire, and it has an amazingly strong percussive force. Okay, and it spreads this percussive force out over about 1 mile. So the percussive force could knock down probably some buildings, maybe a big, heavy, above-ground bunker with reinforced concrete walls and things like that, 12-inch thick walls with rebar and stuff, rooted deep in the ground. Maybe that wouldn't go. I'm sure the windows would blow off it, blow out, but cars and vehicles would get damaged, people above ground would get killed. Residences and stores and things like that would probably blow over. It has the force of a small, what they call nuclear bombs. Let me ask you a question. They say they went to the moon. How did they get through the firmament in Genesis 1? You can't. On the other side of the firmament is water. How could you travel through water? If the space is a vacuum, what are you going to burn fuel with? How do you do that? See, that whole narrative doesn't work. And there were pictures of them on the moon with the flag blowing. How could the flag be blowing on the moon when they tell you it's a vacuum? Then they said they sent unmanned vehicles to Mars, I think. Now, how could you believe this? How? They say satellites are, what do they say, 25 million miles. They say they're way up there in outer space. I don't remember the distance. Massive, okay? Massive distance. How could they break the firmament? How do they take care of space debris, which probably isn't real? Because how does the space debris move around in the water on the other side of the firmament? But anyway, how does that happen? Okay. How do you have an international space station on the other side of the firmament? How? You can't. So to believe them, you got to disbelieve the Bible, or you're in ignorance and you don't know what the Bible says. A massive amount of people in the world believe that Russia, America, blah, 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 went to the moon. Nobody went to the moon. They tell you the Earth is a round sphere rotating about 1,000 miles an hour. The Bible tells us the angels are standing on the four corners of the earth. How do you have four corners on a round ball? If the earth was a round ball, how do you have north, south, east, and west? Because eventually, if you start going north, you're going to be south. How does this work? I can't understand how it works. If the earth was a round ball, would the oceans be relatively flat? Wouldn't the water roll onto the shore from the oceans because it's a round ball? The Bible says the earth is immovable. More than one place, immovable, which means immovable, it's not movable. they say it spins at 1,000 miles an hour. When we were kids, we used to take these little pink balls that said Spalding on them, and we used to stand in the concrete in the schoolyard, which has box lines, little grooves in the concrete, and we used to try to throw them up in the air. We could usually get the balls about 60 feet, sometimes 70 feet, and we'd throw them straight up in the air, and we would try to get the ball to land in the same concrete box we were standing in, which was probably about 1 meter by 1 meter or 3 feet by 3 feet, something like that. And we could, once in a blue moon, get it to come down in the same box, but usually it would be one box or maybe two boxes over. If the earth was spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and you got the ball up 60, 70 feet, that ball probably would have landed 2 blocks, 3 blocks away. If you go in a convertible and you take one of those balls and throw it up in the air at 60 miles an hour, it ain't never coming down where you are to where you can grab it again. If you were going 25 miles an hour, it wouldn't work. But the logic of, well, the reason it comes down in the same place is the ball is traveling at 1,000 miles an hour, just like it was before you threw it up. Oh, really? Well, then why doesn't it work in a car going 25 miles an hour? Because it would be traveling at 1,025 miles an hour, just like it was when you were holding it in the car. The earth has foundations. The depiction of the earth, according to the world, has no foundations. So if the nukes were real, and if you go to Google and you research this, you go to YouTube, there's videos that showed you that when they were showing in the 50s destruction of, villages and cities, they were using railroad decorations. When I was a kid, my father built me a big model railroad on a big table and stuff like that, right? And, you were able to buy little decoration pieces about that big for trees, barns, houses, even cars, and, things like that to make the railroad thing look real, right? Your model railroad. Okay, the cars were about this big. I think we used O gauge, which was there was a double O gauge, which were really huge. Most people didn't buy that. O gauge was the standard size, and then they also had HO gauge, which were very small. I didn't have that. They weren't as much fun, but if you didn't have any space, they would do. And that's what they used. You see, when they made the films in the 50s, they weren't aware of the future technology, and people analyzed it with modern technology. And these videos are all over the internet. Okay? What they did in Hiroshima and Nagasaki was aerial bombs with fuel, just like they did in Dresden and Hamburg a few months earlier. They're very deadly. The MOAB bomb is like that, except it doesn't explode fuel. So when they exploded the fuel above the ground, there was a big blast with all kinds of flames and fires, and they hurt a lot of people. And they burned up the buildings, which were made out of paper and wood and stuff like that. Now, the damage in Nagasaki and Hiroshima was identical to the damage in Tokyo, which they stated was aerial bombs. There's a famous bank building that was right there at the blast zone that had their windows blown out. Their bricks were still standing. There was no 3,000 degrees heat or anything like that. And the bank went ahead and repaired the windows and opened for business shortly thereafter that, and there was nothing glowing in the dark. People went back to work in the bank. They didn't have any radioactive issues. The cherry blossom trees in the blast zone area, some of them got burned up, some survived, but they lost all their, you know, their flowers and leaves and whatever. The next season, they blossomed with cherry blossoms. Now, that's very contrary to what would happen if they used real nukes. You could find all this in Google and YouTube if you look for it. If they had the nukes and the nukes were real, how come they never used them before? Well, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, I don't think it's valid. Remember, there was pictures of that girl, she was 9 or 10 years old, running around with no clothes on in fear. Well, the flames burned the clothes off her, or blew them off her, we don't know what. And then we saw pictures of her years ago. She was, I don't know, 70 years old, 78 or something like that, doing interviews. She didn't die of radiation. No 3,000 degree heat melted her. Why is all this? People don't ask, but a lot of people do. They're as real as going to Mars and going to the moon and having satellites. They're not real. You think you could take a little dish in your house for a satellite dish running on 110 current, put it on the balcony of your apartment or on the roof, a little 12, 15, 18-inch dish, and it's going to reach all the way up into outer space and communicate with satellites, getting through the firmament. What fuels these satellites anyway? They're orbiting around Earth. Well, Earth ain't spinning. Earth is flat. See, at some point, you gotta believe your Bible or you're gonna believe man. Okay? Now, some people don't know any better. I used to be in that category. You go to school, you're in the first grade, the second grade. The teacher's sitting in the front of the classroom. She has a wood desk. What's on the corner of her desk? Or on a stand next to her desk? A globe of the earth. Till they start poisoning your mind right away. Right away. You can't be. Okay? Now, this is shocking to people. For a number of factors go into play here. Number one, many people are just not capable emotionally of admitting they were wrong and were fooled all these years. They got a house, they got a nice car, they got a nice watch, nice furniture, they eat good food. They can't be fooled. They don't understand how really poor they are. I put videos up in my Telegram of people that, watch dealers. They're selling watches for over $1 million a wristwatch, and people buy these things. They sell diamond rings and earrings to people for millions of dollars, and they buy them. And then somebody goes out and manages to get themselves a $40,000 car and a $180,000 house, and they think they're successful. These rich people will routinely drink bottles of wine that cost anywhere from $300 to $2,000 or $3,000 a bottle. I think you get, 4 or 6 glasses out of it. They don't care. What are they going to do with their money? They're billionaires. They got hundreds of millions. If they're not, what are they going to do with their money? Let me drink the best wine. I never in my life had really good wine where that costs that much money. Never ever. I don't know what it tastes like. I imagine it's maybe 20% better than a $40 or $50 bottle of wine. I've had that, or around there. it's just stupid indulgence, okay? That's all it is. That's all it is. The high-end restaurants now, the moderately high-end restaurants, you'll spend with the tip and the tax and some moderate beverages, not, maybe a $20, $30, $40 bottle of wine or something. It'll run you anywhere from $220 or $200 a person to maybe $350 a person. So two people are approaching $1,000 with, if they have 2 bottles of wine, they buy better wine, they drop $1,000, 2 people on a meal. They don't care. What else are they going to do with their money? Men will buy suits for $3,000, $5,000 a suit. They'll wear it once, maybe 2 or 3 times, and then they give it away or throw it away. They don't care. Even doctors think they're rich. They're not rich. There's doctors, maybe 1 in 100 or 1 in 300, that can make themselves $1 or $2 million a year. And if they invest and save their money, they can get themselves up to, they got to pay taxes and they got overhead and all, but employees and lawyers and accountants and offices and equipment, but they might get themselves up to $25, $30 million at the end of their career, which could be 35 years or something like that, probably with investing and getting return on their investment. They're not rich. They're not rich. These rich go and they rent a private island for themselves and their family and relatives, and for 2 weeks it might cost $500,000, but they don't want to go get a suite, which costs them, $100,000 for 2 weeks, or $150,000, or probably $80,000 really, in a big resort, because they don't want that. They want the privacy. They got fears, huge fears, kidnappings, robberies, so they don't like that. So they rent a private island, which normally will have some security, or they'll bring their security. And then they're free to do whatever they want, including their perverted practices on the island without being observed, just their family and friends. They don't care. They rent yachts. They'll rent a big 230-foot yacht for 2 weeks. Probably drop $1 million, $1.5 million for 2 weeks. They bring friends and relatives as they see fit. They'll do it again the next year if they like it. They don't care. They don't have a problem with it. They buy yachts for $20, $40, $50 million, and it costs them probably $2 million a year to pay the crew to live on the yacht. All the fees, repairs, stuff like that. They don't care. How many times do they use it? Well, they got multiple houses. A lot of them keep yachts in different parts of the world. They got castles, all kinds of stuff like that. They got condos in big cities like LA, Beverly Hills, New York, Miami, London, Paris, Rome, Berlin, Helsinki, wherever they like, So what are they? They're probably lucky if they get, 2, 3, 4 weeks a year on their own yacht. And a lot of them won't rent the yacht out. They don't want anybody on their yacht. Many won't. They don't want them in their bedroom. They don't want them sleeping on their bed. They don't want them using their silverware. They don't want them using their toilet. No, they won't rent them out. They have jets. They buy large jets that can seat 16 people, that can go 6,000, 7,000 miles without refueling. That's their long-range jet. Then some of them buy a medium-range jet that can go maybe 3,000, 3,500 miles. They'll use that to commute around one, East Coast to West Coast, stuff like that. Then they have short-range jets that usually seat 6 or 8 people, and they could go maybe 1,500 miles or 1,800 miles without refueling. And they use that to go from like Boston to New York, or New York to Washington, D.C., or Los Angeles to Lake Tahoe, stuff like that. Their lifestyles are so ridiculous, and people think they're well off. These wealthy doctors, best case, are low middle class. People running around making $100,000, $150,000 a year in America are low class. Upper low class. Lower low class are living week to week. And then you have below that, you have poverty, just people that are on poverty, which is, getting supported by the government. The government knows if the people are starving and they're only eating food every other day, every third day, they're going to start getting sick. And their kids are going to get sick, and their elderly are going to get sick. And they're going to want change. And they're going to rise up and do a revolution, like when they got rid of Louis XIV. Because if they don't rise up and do a revolution, they're going to die from starvation and sickness. So that's why they give them support, to keep them from rising up. They don't know what else to do. They're not smart. They're just Satan bots. So they give them this. And it gets to the point where it chokes them. And they do that with the elderly, because the elderly can cause a rising up of the people too, because they see their family and their relatives starving, and then they got to help out, and they get mad at the government. This is what you get. There's a few countries in the world that have an actually adequate social support system for the retirees, the old people, and the disability, but that's far and few between. America is not one of those. They take the incompetents that are really disabled, like blind and crippled and amputees, and people that brains don't work right, like they're retarded, and things like that. And they support them. Well, they could give them, housing. They'll get housing. They'll get food stamps. They might get caretakers. They might get a little stipend. And basically, then you have people that get this because they say they're prostitutes. They got attention deficit disorder. They're nervous wrecks. They're alcoholics. They're drug addicts. They have no education. They can't work, And they get supported just like somebody in need, like an amputee, someone with no legs or no arms, or can't walk, or blind, and then, they give these people the same benefits, which is stupid. Because a person wants to be a drunk or an alcoholic or a prostitute, or you support them for the rest of their life. How smart that is. And you wonder why their children grow up the same way, and their grandchildren grow up the same way, and their great-grandchildren grow up the same way, and that's probably about as long as it's been going on. That's, there should be a social support system for the people that really need it, but America gives it to people that really should be told to go get a job and rehabilitate it, So the people in America they're poor. I've published things on Telegram about the cars they buy. They buy cars now for $2-3 million. It's nothing for them to go out and get a Mercedes Maybach or Bentley, Rolls Royce, and there's other exotic cars they can buy, and they drop $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 on those. And they have multiples of those. Some of them have 6, 10, 12 cars. They keep them in their different houses. And then they got security details. They got maids. They got cooks. They fly food in, or they go to, if they live in Beverly Hills or New York, there's supermarkets that fly all the fruit in from around the world, and they sell it. You know, you see they'll sell people a basket of strawberries for, I'm not kidding, $28 for a basket. So they'll go in and buy 3 or 4 baskets. They don't care if they walk out of that store and they spend $180 or they spend $1,250. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything to them. And the people run around in America and they think they're well off. I can buy a polo shirt or, something like that, right? Well, these people don't buy polo. They're custom tailored with fabrics you wouldn't even know existed. The kind of fabric they get. You wouldn't know it's around. You would never feel anything like that. So the people are in great deception in America, and you should not be one of them. Okay? So this whole nuclear thing, guys, it is never ever going to happen, just like they never went to the moon. Just like there's no satellites. How does your little dish go 25, I think it's the satellites are 25 million miles up in space. How does it reach up there? Well, your cell phone goes what? 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks? 10 blocks? And this little satellite dish is going millions of miles? Wake up. How does your cell phone go a few blocks and then you have a satellite phone? I had one, I still have it someplace. Satellite phone, right? You pull the antenna up, it's about as thick as your thumb, and it's maybe something like that. And it runs on a battery that you charge. Now that thing is going to reach 25 miles up into space, right? Uh-huh. Sure. People are dumbed down. That's it. Look at the diet of most people. Europe, America, South America. What are they mostly eating? Carbohydrates. So they go up. They eat the carbohydrate, the blood sugar goes up, they feel good 1, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then it starts going down. Young people, children get affected like this too. You give kids a high carb meal, like you give them ice cream for dessert, you give them peanut butter and jelly on toast or something, and they spike their, you give them soda to drink with it and all that, they spike their carbohydrates up, and then it drops off. They get tired, they get sleepy, they take a nap, they doze off, they're not alert, they're goofy. Then what happens? Then they get hungry again, and then they eat more carbohydrates and they go up. The food, they get a meat patty, they buy frozen food. Well, who knows what kind of preservatives and chemicals they put on it to keep it preserved, and then for months. And then they eat it, and it's loaded with carbs. We were reading the ingredients. My wife was to some sandwich meat we got. They put sugar and all kinds of carbohydrates in the sandwich meat. If you buy a steak, does it have carbs in it? No. Not really. Maybe if you go to a restaurant and they put sauces on it, then you're going to get the carbs. But If you just take the steak, you put it on barbecue, put it in a grill, no, it's fine. A lamb chop, any of that, right? A roast, you do it yourself, you're not getting carbs. But what do the kids like to eat more than that? Well, they want chicken fingers loaded with carbs. They want macaroni and cheese loaded with carbs. They want pizza loaded with carbs. They want a hamburger on the bun with sauces and french fries with a drink with all kinds of sweeteners in it and sugars and loaded with carbs. What do the people eat that are not loaded with carbs? But they're not going out and eating organic corn from land where it was given to rest every 7 years. So the nutrients in the soil, the good stuff in the soil for the plants, have not been depleted. They haven't let their land rest in hundreds of years, or decades after decade after decade. Same with the animals. They're eating that stuff too, and the land's not resting. But what did they used to? Well, they ate corn that was good from the land that rested every 7 years, the Shemitah year. Well, they called it the Sabbath year. It's really the Shemitah year. Okay, so they ate corn and they ate apples and prunes and figs and this and that, but did they GMO them? No. Did they spray them with harmful chemicals? No, they didn't have such chemicals. They were getting carbs, but they weren't getting artificial carbs. They didn't have sugar products to put in food then. It never occurred to them. They used salt, they used seasoning. They probably had pepper and cinnamon and garlic and all. Yeah, they had all that stuff. So I went on this carnivore diet, and it really is making a difference. I don't get this anymore. Where do you get the vitamins and minerals? Well, they say it comes from the animals that eat the crops. But when we eat vegetables, we eat what? Like this? When a cow eats vegetables, it eats what? A bathtub full? So even though it's depleted, it still gets enough. But we don't eat a bathtub full of vegetables or fruits or anything, do we? And the stuff that we do eat's not that good either. Does that dumb the people down? Yeah. You know, if you go back to the year, let's just say about 1880 or 1890, and you looked at a test they gave an 8th grader, I've done this. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's in business, and I took this test that they were giving 8th graders, and I would pass it, but there was a lot of stuff in there I didn't really know. I was struggling with it. That's an 8th grader. Were they eating the same way as we are today? No. Not 1880, 1890, not even 1900, not even 1950. 1950 they started brainwashing the people when television came around. Radio really was beginning. But with TV they were starting to tell the people they need pet evaporated milk. What do you need pet evaporated milk for? And then look at the ingredients they put in shampoo and soap. I mean, these are big chemicals, big names, and that stuff gets in your skin. And then we could talk about the medicines, but, look at the sodas. They didn't have those kind of sodas back then. They were putting sugar in sodas and stuff like that. Yup. They did do that. Okay. people didn't live indoors as much as we do today. Yeah, in the harsh climates, they had no choice, but a lot of people, were not living that way, you know. I read reports of guys that would go hunting in the Sierra Nevada mountains back even in the 1800s, right? Early 1800s. What they did when they went on hunting trips, which lasted a long time, they'd go out for weeks, right? They would take what we would basically call beef jerky, which was not full of synthetic chemicals or anything like that. They just jerked the beef, they dried it out, and, they knew how to do it. They had little huts they cured it in. And they would take a pile of that with them, and that's what they ate for a few weeks. They were basically on a carnivore diet. They did fine. Okay? Polynesians, they used to eat fresh fruits. Yes, the land did not rest with them, and they ate fish. But the oceans were in better shape back then, and they didn't have GMO and artificial, insecticides and all the other junk they put on. When you get tomatoes in the supermarket, do you ever realize how old they are? Weeks. Check it out. They're weeks old when you get them. Now, if you go to the farmer's market, they're days old. So much produce comes into countries like America and Europe that are put on refrigerated containers on container ships and treated with all kinds of chemicals to preserve them. What are we eating? So we're dumbed down. It was amazing going on. I'm only on it a little over 2 weeks, going on this carnivore diet. It's just like, what is going on? What is this? It's just amazing. I don't understand what happened, But eating these synthetic foods, if you do it for a month or 3 months, I think you'd recover from it. But if you did it for 40 years, or let's say 20 years or 25 years, you're not going to recover from it. Read the label on what's in your peanut butter. Now, people that buy organic food are better off, but I'm hearing they're not that much better off, but they're better off. But, it's just, and this works to dumb the people down. Then add into the ingredient drugs, street drugs, fentanyl, all kinds of other drugs, add into it excessive use of alcohol. The alcohol that they make, the hard alcohol, the Scotch, bourbon, gin, blah, blah, blah. Those things are not healthy. If you took real pure organic grapes that came from land that rested every 7 years, and you didn't put preservatives and garbage in them, and you fermented the grapes and made wine, I don't think we would know what it tastes like. I mean, we don't know what that tastes like. We'll soon find out, but we don't know. Would it still cause a hangover? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe yes. I don't know. We'll find out. But see, we're all screwed up from our modern ways. We don't get sunlight. It's essential for us to get sunlight. I bought this, you could call it a red light device, that puts certain wavelengths on your skin, and it doesn't give you vitamin D. These wavelengths stimulate your skin for your body to produce vitamin D. What's the best vitamin D you can get? Something out of a bottle from a supplement company? Or this? This is basically copying the sun's rays onto your skin, which the sun's supposed to do. But it's 50 degrees outside. Am I going to go sit outside in wearing short pants and no t-shirt and just sit there in the sun for 20 minutes or a half hour? I'd look like Frosty the Snowman. So we have ourselves sitting inside. They just years ago changed the light bulbs for the worse. You know, there's people that make light like lamps that are very bright and they give you the proper amount of light. You know, if you can't, let's say you can't read a book in your house because it's too dark and your lights were off. You know, you say, well, I'm gonna, your power's out, I'll go outside and read it. And you go out in the sunlight and oh boy, you can read it. Okay? See, you see better in the sunlight. So, but we don't have anywhere near the light in our houses that the sunlight gives us. People that live indoors a lot of the years get circadian rhythm problems. Aside from the fact they don't get vitamin D because they're not out in the sun, they wake up in the morning and it's dark outside, and their body clock doesn't work right. We're supposed to live in Israel, and that really doesn't happen much in Israel. Okay, I think that we have punishment weather in Israel now. And that'll go away with redemption. I don't think we'll have that anymore. It says, arise, shine, your light has come. The glory of God of Israel be here in the light, you know, and all this stuff. And I think that light is going to be better than the sunlight for us. But that remains to be seen. So, you know, people are all messed up. Do the elite live the way we live? I don't know. You see Trump eating McDonald's. Somebody that's trying to preserve their health with food wouldn't do that. You see Trump is way, way overweight. He has great tailors that conceal it. I would think Trump is at least 260, maybe 280 or something like that. He's pretty darn heavy. Okay? Biden wasn't. Obama wasn't. Obama, when he got into office the first time, was a heavy cigarette smoker. Cigarettes got, like, they say, huge numbers of chemicals in them, like 70, 80 chemicals or something like that. They used to give cigarettes to the soldiers in World War II and maybe in Vietnam even, but then they stopped. In World War II, when they got their meal kit, you know, they got MRE, meal ready to eat, they got them 3 times a day. And they had a thing that would heat up the can, or they'd put it in the helmet and put water in the helmet and heat it up. They had ways to doing it, right? And with each of these meals, they got a little package of cigarettes, you know, Lucky Strike, Camel, you know, Marlboro, or whatever. And it was kind of random, and it had either 4 or 5 cigarettes in the pack. So they could get, you know, something like 12, 15 cigarettes a day. But they were non-smokers, and they would trade desserts for cigarettes and things like this, you know. And I don't know how good those MREs were. Probably not. And then in the 50s, they came out with TV dinners and frozen foods. And how good is that for you? Look how much pizza they sell in most countries. Well, America especially. Pizza Hut, Little Caesar. What are the other ones? There's about 6 or 8 or 10 chains of pizza. The one grandfather, I can't remember. I haven't been there in so long. And you could have these things delivered. You could phone them in and then go pick them up. You could go eat them in the store. People are sitting there eating this junk. How much Chinese food do they have? They put bicarbonate of soda in the meat in the Chinese restaurants to soften it. And this goes on in many restaurants. And these sauces and flavorings they put on the Chinese food, who knows what's in that? You know? You know, Italian food. I think Italian food is fantastically delicious, but what are they eating? Spaghetti, pasta, baked ziti. Is that good? Veal parmesan. It's delicious, but it's breaded with whatever garbage they put around it. Italian bread. We used to get this in New York. They would be a delicious loaf of bread, and they would put olive oil on it, butter, and garlic, and some other seasonings, and it was delicious. But it's a carb load. It's breads. When you make barley bread, which my wife does, real barley bread, like that's what they ate on Passover was barley bread. That's my understanding. Not wheat, barley. And it was flat. It would be like this. It tasted pretty good, but it didn't have any chemicals in it. They didn't have artificial chemicals in Egypt or in Israel back then or in the wilderness. They didn't have that stuff. And wheat bread is probably not that bad for you either if you use real wheat grown on land where it had a Shabbat rest and the nutrients replenished in the soil with that 1 year rest, and you didn't have any artificial anything, no artificial insecticides, no GMO, no chemicals, no this. And you took it and, you know, made bread, which would probably look like what? Tortilla? Yeah. Would that be harmful to you? I doubt it. Or if you ate corn on the cob, you know, with Shemitah the land, that wouldn't bother you. Or tomatoes, or, you know, it wouldn't bother you. People eat hot dogs. What kind of chemicals do they add in the hot dogs? Do they taste good? Sure, they put chemicals in to make them taste good. You know? Then there's over-the-counter medicines. Then there's cosmetics that got massive amount of chemicals that get in your skin, soaps that get in your skin, shampoos that get in your skin, all kinds of stuff going on, right? And then people believe all this stuff. And then come diseases. And then when you get the diseases, you got to start what? You start getting more chemicals for medicine, and then you start getting surgery, which is really bad for you. What's the difference between surgery and getting shot with a bullet or getting slashed with a sword? Not mine. The doctor takes a sword called the scalpel and cuts you, and how is that different than getting hit with a sword? Where in the Bible did they do surgery on people? I never saw it. Anesthesia. There's so many old people I knew that had anesthesia, and then about 2 years later, they got dementia. Look at all the dementia you got going on. That's not normal. It's not normal. You think in the 1800s they had that much dementia? I don't. It happened to people, probably because they were, you know, they had sweet sugar candies and garbage you could eat, and they had a lot of alcohol. The way they make the alcoholic beverages is not good for you, you know. You know, it just goes on and on and on, and then people believe all this stuff and look at the shape of the world now. All right, let's get on to the news. I don't know any of the Sonic characters. Sonic Hedgehog, isn't that the character's name? Something like that. Let me make sure we got sound going on this. Like, that's what they ate on Passover. You know, it just goes on and on. All right. So that's my diatribe on that. Let me get in my notes. Now it's coming out that it's pretty common knowledge in the media that Israel plans on doing a strike on Iran, nuclear facilities, possibly plus other targets. What does Iran do? Now, put the thinking cap on. What you may not know is some months ago, Israel destroyed much of the Iranian radar around the nuclear facilities and other places. You heard of ballistic missiles and guided missiles, right? Okay. Something got to guide them, right? That's radar. So they need these big, huge radar half domes and domes that are huge, 60, 80 feet. They suck power like you wouldn't believe. You can't plug them into the wall. They got to go into the main cables from the electric generators. And these are not, you don't just slap them together. They're complicated things. And they have lots of parts inside. And they got to be calibrated, tested, realigned, and set up. It's not an easy thing to do. It takes a long time to build them. You don't just get on Amazon and say, send me a 92-foot radar dome, use FedEx or something, So Trump a few days ago, maybe now it's 6-7 days ago, said that the Iranian air defense systems around the nuclear facilities are inoperative because they don't have the radar to acquire the target to feed the coordinates to the missile, the smart missile, and then the missile could launch and track the moving target, i.e. the airplane, and bring it down. You don't have the radar. The same reason Iran can't shoot missiles into Israel now, because it doesn't have the radar to guide them. Can Iran put missiles into Iraq? Yes, easily. Land border. Can they use the radar in Iraq to shoot into Israel? It likely is possible, but are the Iranian missiles coordinated to work with the Iraq radar? Maybe, maybe not, we don't know. Okay? But what would happen to Iraq if they tried doing that? We would probably take the missiles down because they're far enough away we'd pick it up and take it down. And it might take 3 or 4 hours or an hour or 3 days, but Israeli jets would go to Iraq and they would initially destroy every radar system that they could find in Iraq, and then they would start destroying their missiles and whatever else they wanted to, and it would be a real pounding. It wouldn't be lightweight. It would be probably someplace between 40 and 100 jets would work on it. It would be a massive slamming of them. After they got slammed like that, they would be way more vulnerable for HTS in Syria to come in there for several reasons. One is Iraq is next door to Syria, and they have a border, and it's dangerous because it's Iranian. It's a proxy of Iran. Not a full proxy like Hamas in Gaza, but a partial proxy. It listens to Iran. There's a lot of Bashar Assad's Alawite cronies and non-Alawite members of the old Bashar Assad government that are in Iraq. And HTS wants them because it's a continuing threat for them being overthrown. So they would love to get in there and destroy these Bashar Assad people, and also if there's any Hezbollah and Hamas in there that escaped from Syria when HTS took over. So if their radars and all that other stuff went down, they, and then Israel would hit their airfields, whatever helicopters and jets they got. They would hit missile depots, factories for weapons. They would try to significantly weaken Iraq so Iraq learns a lesson. Number one, they would leave them vulnerable. So at any time we want to fly back in and destroy stuff, we can. Okay? And it would weaken them. And then HTS could move on them because they would love to take Iraq over, because it gives them a big buffer zone from Iran. Iran can move troops, tanks, weapons, whatever they want into Iraq freely, and now they're on the border of Syria. And this is a big headache for HTS because them and Iran do not get along. Iran doesn't get along with another one of their neighbors, which is called the Taliban, who would love to invade them also. So Iran's got enemies in the Arab world right now. Don't kid yourself. Taliban would love to play wipeout on them, and I think HTS would too, because it's a looming threat. Iran is nothing but a death cult country, okay? They don't care about anything except murdering. That's what they're dedicated to. Satan was a murderer from the beginning and the father of lies, and the Iranians lie their heads off all the time about their capabilities and what they did and what they didn't do and all of this stuff. The American dollar buys approximately 3.5 Israeli shekels. The American dollar buys over 900,000 of the Iranian, I think they call it a rial, their currency, their dollar, let's say. Almost 1 million, over, I think it's 960,000. Do you understand how stupid that is? The Iranians are doing nothing to fix it. They just want to keep making war. Right now, Iran is in a very, very bad way. And we'll break this down for you. Hezbollah in Lebanon. What just happened up there yesterday? Iran was flying money in on a passenger plane. How does that work? Well, the passengers probably take a backpack or a big purse or something and put, you could get $100,000 US in a backpack, easy, probably more, probably $250,000. So they sent a bunch of people on the plane with money in their suitcases, their carry-ons, maybe they put money belts all over themselves with duct tape and, to send millions of dollars to Hezbollah to keep them going. But Israel knew about it because we have a lot of good intel, boots on the ground, we intercept communications, millions of ways, surveillance, aircraft. So we told the Lebanese people that plane ain't coming in. Trump called them up and warned them. Trump said that if you let that plane in, Israel's going to destroy your Beirut airport. So the Lebanese government, now they have a government, which is supposed to be against Hezbollah, and Hezbollah holds seat in the government of Lebanon, but only 5 seats. It's not huge. So the plane got turned back. The Beirut airport told the Iranian plane, you're not allowed to land, go home. So they went back home. So Hezbollah didn't get their money. So they went nuts in Lebanon yesterday in the evening. They went nuts. What did they do? They got protests going, closing highways, burning government cars on fire. and they attacked the UNFIL, the UN troops there, by hitting their cars with iron rods and clubs like baseball bats and things like that, right? And they pretty seriously injured, not that he's in critical danger of dying, but they seriously injured the number 2 man in the UNFIL soldiers in Lebanon, which are worthless. They're a bunch of punks. They couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag, you know? Any New York street gang could demolish them, I think. Okay? These are not warriors. These are coming from different third world countries. They like to go over there because they probably get about, I would say, $2,000 a month minimum. And then they get living expenses for their families, and they pay for an apartment for them, and they get a food allowance. Where in their own country, in the army, they probably get $600-700 a month, $900 maybe. So it's a windfall to them. They don't want to fight. They want the money. So they were over there, and they closed highways. They attacked the military. They made a huge disruption at the airport. They created riots in Lebanon, and now the UN says that they think what Hezbollah did was a war crime. They're investigating to see if it is. The UN said that. So Hezbollah crossed the red line. But who was feeding them the money but Iran? Now, quick question. Netanyahu flies over there with all kinds of bunker buster, crazy bombs, and he blows up all 5 nuclear facilities and comes back to Israel. The planes return home, all intact. How does that stop Iran? Tell me. Nuclear is crap. It's nonsense. It's not real. Whoa, they can make nuclear energy facilities and stuff like that. But what are they going to do? Now, Iran has no nuclear now, and they're causing all this trouble in the Middle East. So if you blow up these so-called nuke facilities, 5 of them, they're right where they were. They have no nuclear facilities. Okay, look at all the trouble they've caused. Will it solve anything? No. Will it be a slap in the face to Iran? Yes. Will it insult them and diminish the public opinion with the other Arabs of them and their strength and the might? Yes, yes, yes. Will it stop Iran? Not at all. They never had it and they caused all this trouble. So if they never get it, they're still going to cause all this trouble. Can you understand that? Okay? Now, if Netanyahu goes there and blows up their ports where they receive and send out oil and natural gas, and we blow the natural gas and the oil pipelines up, and we blow their refineries up, would that cripple Iran? Massively. Will Netanyahu do it? I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. I'd give it a 10% chance. Trump says he's going to cripple Iran with sanctions. They're not going to be able to sell oil. That has never happened in all these years. The only way I know that Iran will be stopped from selling oil is massive attacks on their oil refineries, their ports, their piers, and their pipelines. Will that stop them from selling oil? Immediately, yes. Do we hear them talk about that? No, just the new facilities. Does that mean Israel or America won't do it? No, it doesn't mean that, but they're not talking about it. Now, what else could Trump do to stop the oil from flowing? And then I'm going to have you compare the two and reach a conclusion, okay? He can put ships, Navy warships, at the Straits of Hormuz, where the Persian Gulf empties into the Sea of Oman, which then, if you continue east, turns into the Indian Ocean. And when they see a ship coming out of Iran that looks like it could contain oil and natural gas, they stop it, they search it, send it back, or sink it. What would Iran do? I don't know. What are their options? They could go back and say, well, we're finished now, we better negotiate with Trump. Which should probably never happen. Or we can use our new drone carrier ships and our crappy little submarines and try to hurt an American aircraft carrier or destroyer or two and see if America backs off. America's not going to back off. What else could they do? Launch the sleeper agents in America. Trump is speaking to America and the world with a forked tongue. On the one hand, I'm the president of peace. I want to bring peace. He wants to shut Russia and Ukraine down. Yes. Why? Well, it's a drain on America and his valued wartime allies, NATO, by pushing all these weapons into Ukraine. 3-year-old war, it's going nowhere. I told you this a long time ago, many times. All they're doing is killing each other. 1 week, oh, Russia's whipping Ukraine. The next week, Ukraine's whipping Russia. Nobody's getting anywhere. Russia's clinging to a piece of land they got. And Trump's sitting there thinking, now wait a minute, they got $3.2 trillion of precious rare minerals like lithium that we need for making batteries and things like that, and others in precious metals, and not so much gold and silver, but rare metals. So we need to get those out of Ukraine. Ukraine can pay us for the weapons, pay us back for the weapons by letting us go in and mine and manufacture, get these minerals and metals out of the ground and take them to America. We don't have to buy them from China and other countries, and this is a great idea, right? So he says, I want those minerals and metals, and I don't want to keep throwing billions of dollars every month into a stupid war that, quite frankly, doesn't do much for America one way or the other. So he gets a hold of Putin and tries to unilaterally create a ceasefire with Putin, which he's in the process of doing right now, without Zelensky in the meeting. So he's negotiating for Zelensky. He did that, that doesn't work too much. He tried it with Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Jordan, and he failed. He tried it with Panama, and he failed. He's probably going to fail with Zelensky, but Zelensky's a different animal. So Zelensky, if Trump and NATO call Putin up and say, look, we're not interested in annihilating Russia and having a big $1 trillion war over Ukraine. So I just want you to know, we would prefer you make a ceasefire with Zelensky and stop the war. But we want you to know that we are in no way, shape, or form going to attack Mother Russia, regardless of what you do to Ukraine. Whatever you do to Ukraine, we're not going to try to annihilate Russia. Then Putin tells Zelensky, and if he says no, then Putin would mobilize. But I'm not even sure Zelensky could stop Zelensky. I think he would have to wait for Zelensky to run out of weapons, which could take 3 months, maybe 6 months. I don't know, maybe a month. Trump interrupted a lot of weapon shipments to Zelensky in Ukraine. So I don't see this Trump doing this, because then he's elevating Putin into a high level. So Trump, being the man of peace here, well, he has selfish interests for America. Now, take his selfish interests again. He doesn't want to see big wars break out with America because Trump has billions of dollars of property, real estate around the world that can't be defended because it's not in America. so the terrorists can destroy his properties, ruin his name, do bomb attacks and shooting attacks at his golf club resorts, his hotels, blow his buildings up, make Trump we don't want to go near anything with the Trump name because the terrorists will hit it. That's a conflict of interest. Now, what do we got here with him in Gaza? He wants to build a resort there, make money for his family and his friends and all that, right? Now, what about Panama? Panama said to Trump, we canceled the contract with China to do the port container handling. I don't know if they ever really went through with that. They told Trump that they were not going to charge American warships money to pass through the Red Sea. Some of these tariffs run up to $1 million for America per ship. So then a day or two later, they turned around and said, no, we're charging money to American warships. Have we heard Trump talk anything further about that? No. Jordan visited Trump in the White House. He said he would take 2,000 sick and wounded and injured children to Jordan, put them in the hospitals and heal them up for free. The other Arab states didn't mind that at all. Who did he take? Children. Is he going to keep them away from their mothers and fathers? No. They'll go back to Gaza. Trump says he's going to take the Palestinians. Jordan tells Israel, hey, if the Palestinians are coming my way into Jordan, I'll declare war on Israel. Now, I want to tell you the idiocy of Netanyahu. Do you mind if I call him Netanyahu? Okay. He gives Jordan water every year for many years because they need it. It's essential. Did this moron ever go to Jordan and say, we'll give you water, but I want a sweetheart deal on the oil from you? Jordan is an oil-producing country. No. Israel pays $9 a gallon for diesel. $3 a gallon is the tax on gasoline in Israel. 50% is roughly the wages. So if you work for a company in Israel, you're paying 50% tax, and your sales tax is 17%. And your tax on a motor vehicle, a new motor vehicle, is 100%, and if it's a luxury vehicle, 150%. So a $30,000 car in America is $60,000. In Israel, then you're filling the tank at $9 a gallon. And the wages are nowhere near as high here as they run in America. They're close, but they're not there. And the price of houses here is insane. If you want to get like a 1,400 foot condo, it's not a condo, you're buying an apartment in a building in a not good area, just out far away from the big cities, you're probably paying around $200,000 for that. It's not a house, it's an apartment. It'll have 2 or 3 small bedrooms. It'll have a master bath and a half bath, which is basically a toilet, a sink, and a mirror. You'll have a small balcony. You'll have, not that small, it may be 12, 15 feet long by 3 feet. It's usable for sure. You'll have a parking spot down in front of the building, not a garage, probably not even a carport, just the painted lines on the concrete with your number on it. And you'll have a sink, and you won't have closets because they haven't figured out to build closets in Israel. So you got to buy arnons, which are wood or whatever you want to make it out of, wardrobes. Can you imagine they don't insulate houses? They don't. And they don't build them with closets. Could you imagine this? And with the high heat, they don't put double pane glass on the windows. They should put triple pane in. Do you understand this? You got it? Okay. So if you were going to go to a place like a Fula, you would pay $225 for one of these small apartments. Okay? If you want the same apartment in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, you'll probably pay $500,000, $450,000, $700,000, depending on what floor it is, what kind of view it has, what neighborhood. You want a nice private house on a third of an acre in a small city far away from Tel Aviv, $750,000. And you're talking about 2,000 square feet, maybe, no garage. Yeah, you'll have a bomb shelter, that's the law. And you have no insulation, single pane windows, no central air. And that's what you're going to get. They can't afford it. People in Israel can't afford it. When you rent here, you got to pay the landlords all gang up on the renters because they're generally Satan bots, and Netanyahu loves Satan bots in Israel. So you'll pay the land tax, the property tax. I got to pay it every month. We all do. And they make you pay for repairs. The landlord in the law is up here, and you're way down here as a tenant. That's wrong. That's wrong. Oh yeah. That's what they do. They don't want you here. The only people that want here are the rich people because they're Satan. They'll come here. What's a nice place? Let's say you want to go to Tel Aviv. You want to get just a basic apartment. Maybe you want to be near the beach or whatever, and you want to be on the 10th or 12th floor. You want to get 2,000 square feet with a view of the ocean, wrap around balconies, a garage. You can park your car inside, so when it's 100 degrees outside, you don't have to get in a car and you can't even touch the steering wheel. It's so hot. And what's something like that going to cost you? Not that much. I would say maybe $1 million, $1.5 million. You'd have that. Let's say you want to be in a high floor with a 3,000 square foot beautiful wraparound apartment with multiple views. What's that going to cost you? Oh, $3 to $7 million. Welcome to the show. So let's get back to the wars. So there's only two ways Trump is going to stop Iran from trading in oil and natural gas, and that's one is a blockade of the Straits of Hormuz, which will cause a war. Iran will die if they can't get their oil and natural gas sold. Have you ever bought an Iranian car, an Iranian TV, an Iranian refrigerator, an Iranian aircraft, an Iranian motorcycle, an Iranian microwave, anything sophisticated that was made in Iran? No, all they make is weapons. That's all they care about. Weapons first, everything later. They're not that worried about a revolution because they reign with an iron hand, and their soldiers will gun down the people in the streets if they try to get serious and overthrow the government. They'll mow them down with machine guns from tanks. They'll kill not hundreds, not thousands, hundreds of thousands. They'll wipe them out. They don't care. They'll wipe them out. They wouldn't have to. By the time they got to 10, 25,000, the people would stop. They know that. They'd bomb them if they had to. They're brutal pigs. Okay? These are poor excuses for human beings. These are mentally ill, psychotic murderers, like serial killers. Okay? They don't know right and wrong. They don't know the difference. They're criminally insane. They don't know the difference. Okay. So is Trump likely to put a blockade on the Straits of Hormuz? It'd be very dangerous because they would manage to hurt several warships. But he could do it. I don't think he will. I don't think he's got the guts. See, Trump has problems. He has to revamp the government. He's doing it. He laid off so many people from the federal government already that the housing prices in Washington, D.C. are crashing. There's thousands of houses up for sale in Washington, D.C. now because the people lost their jobs and moving away. Washington, D.C. is very expensive. If you were sucking up $125,000 a year with a government job where you did nothing of any value, you were able to do it. But they can't do it anymore. They got to go someplace where it's cheap to live. Especially all those that took the early retirement and got 8 months' pay, which isn't that much money. Let's say they made $10,000 a month, so they got $80,000. Well, that's a down payment, or maybe a substantial payment towards the house in some other part of the world, you know. And then they might have had savings as well, and, you know, stuff like that. So anyway, well, I think once I did the numbers and I did it wrong, and I said a much higher figure, 800,000, which is not right. That would be like 8 years, not 8 months. Sorry about that. I wasn't thinking. I probably was tired from the broadcast. So, but you know, with all these thousands of houses on the market, the prices are going to drop because people are going to want to get them sold. So, if you put your house out for $375, it doesn't sell in 2 months, you make it $350. Then you make it $320. Then you make it $300. Then you make it, you know, $290, $280. And you keep going down till you sell it. As long as you're above your payoff, that's what you do. But who's going to want to buy these houses? Trump's not beefing up the federal payroll. There's nobody going to want to buy them. I don't know how that's going to end yet. The sanctions on Iran are not going to work because they're going to ignore Trump. They're going to try to sell through BRICS, digital currency, whatever. And they're going to just keep shipping the oil out. The only way Trump's going to stop the oil is to physically stop it with ships. And that will be fighting in battles. And I don't know if Trump's ready to do that because he's nervous right now because his government is still being set up and his military's changing. He has to set the military up. And the military is in a sad state of affairs. It's in a sad state of affairs. And he's got to revamp it. And that doesn't take 2 weeks. So he's trying to lay low. But he's not a peacemonger. He's a world conqueror. Okay? He's got a big problem with Russia, but he can negotiate out of the Russia thing. Maybe. Don't be so sure, but there's a chance he can do that. A good chance. But there's a dismal, minimal chance he could even negotiate with Iran. They don't even want to talk to him, just like Egypt. Now the whole 53 or 56 Arab League is against Trump. They're universally, all of them is saying, we don't want you evacuating Gaza. Well, this is going to bring big problems on Trump. And Trump is the daughter of Babylon in Jeremiah 50:51. And they are going to get invaded and attacked and everything else pretty soon. Don't kid yourself. Trump does not believe the Bible. And and he doesn't know what's going on, but he's turning too many people against him. North Korea's against him, China's against him, Cuba's against him, Venezuela's against him, Egypt, Jordan, they were all against him. Who's not against Trump? Maybe NATO, maybe the EU, maybe some countries in South America. Mexico's against him, Canada's against him. The EU, you think they're happy that he's threatening them with tariffs? What's another way Trump could put the sanctions on Iran that's much safer? Have Israel attack the oil refineries of ports and piers in Iran. Would Netanyahu do it if Trump asked him? Sure. Netanyahu's a moron. He'll listen to Trump. Yeah, he'll attack them. That will enforce the sanctions. Is that likely to happen? Yep. I'll be right back. Whoops, I can't get out of here. I don't know when that'll happen. It might happen sooner than later. But Trump ain't gonna attack them. Not that I see from here right now. Let me tell you, so far, what is it, less than a month, all the places that Trump has failed on the international scene. On the domestic scene, Trump's doing a good job. Panama Canal reversed back on Trump. He doesn't even talk about it, does he? Failure. Egypt, take the Palestinians. Failure. Jordan, take the Palestinians. Failure. Saudi Arabia, normalize relations with Israel and take the Palestinians. You got plenty of land. Failure. Greenland, you don't hear anything about that anymore. Failure. Canada, 51st state. Failure. Okay? Did you have enough failures? You can't tell people that Trump, in America, many people, they don't want to believe it. Was Biden a failure? Biden was a miserable piece of garbage. Was Obama? Obama was worse. These were the dregs of the sewers. But, Trump is a businessman. He could understand fixing the federal government. He understands getting rid of the IRS, getting rid of the Federal Reserve and going to a digitized currency because he could make all of that he wants. Do you know that there's nations that counterfeit American currency? North Korea. There's probably 5 or 10 countries that could invest $25 million in equipment to counterfeit American currency. A lot of these Muslim countries, these renegade countries, are probably doing it. And others, we just found a fentanyl, I think it was fentanyl, manufacturing facility in Syria that Hezbollah was using to make money, selling fentanyl. Of course, Bashar Assad knew about it. He didn't care. They probably kicked back to him. Has Trump closed the border? Yes, he's done a very good job of closing the border. The illegals aren't really coming in. Is Trump shipping them out? He is, but in minuscule numbers. Even Trump admitted himself before the election there could be 30 million illegals in America. And if you take a 60% figure, the low figure for sleeper-age military males coming in, what's 60% of 30 million? 18 million. I don't think there's 18 million sleeper agents. Personally, I think about it, it's too many. But could there be 1 million or 2 million that are really, military? Yeah, I don't think it's that 18 million, but it could be 1 million. It could be 800,000, enough to create a reign of terror in America like you wouldn't believe. They probably have as many as America has military. 1 million, 1.5 million, something like that. That's probably what they really have, like really military trained people. Gangbangers and people that, wannabe sleeper agents and stooges that these countries like North Korea, China, Iran, and will use to do stupid things or they'll get caught and stuff. Yeah. But real sleeper agents, there's not 18 million of them. There's probably over 1 million or 1 million or some pretty good size figure. In the hundreds of thousands for sure. And Trump knows it, and these are not the people getting rounded up. They're not in the sanctuary cities. They're not hanging out on the street corners. Hey man, you want some coke? They're not doing that. They're being taken care of. They're getting a stipend. They're someplace safe where they're not going to be picked up so easily by ICE. They're hidden in places. On farmland, in other places. China has pieces of property, over 300,000 acres, most of which is next door, adjacent to American military bases. Trump knows all this. He was talking about the sleeper agents before, and the illegals before the election. He's scared. He can't go and start wars because these jerks will launch the sleeper agents, and now he's really in trouble. It's going to happen because Trump is going to get frustrated, and he already is. Nobody's listening to Trump. Panama laughed at him. Saudi laughed at him. Jordan laughed at him. Egypt laughed at him. Nothing came of Greenland. Nothing came of Canada. Making Mexico a state, nothing came of that. And nothing's going to come of him using Gaza as a resort. That's just not in the Bible. It's never going to happen. All right? So if Trump continues like this, what's going to happen? Nobody outside of America is going to take him seriously. They're going to laugh at him. They already are. Hamas the other day said Trump's threats are meaningless. We don't pay attention to it. Iran doesn't even bother talking to Trump. Neither does Egypt. he is not a credible figure outside of America. It's known that he's talking big and acting little, but they know more. They don't just stop there, these world leaders, and say, well, no, they know he can't act because he's trying to strengthen America and clean it up, and he's trying to bluff them like Iran bluffs and Hamas bluffs. He told Israel that you can stay in Lebanon, after the ceasefires were over. He told us we could stay there. Who the heck? How does he get away with that? Hezbollah never agreed to the ceasefire extension again, which I think now is till February 28th, by the way. Ramadan is March 1st, and that's the sign of trouble. And, we're going to stay there past that. We've publicly announced it. We have 5 places we're going to be fortifying when the ceasefire is over to protect us from Hezbollah. And we've got a lot of positions in Syria we took that has Turkey mad, but so what? And we don't have much intention of leaving there. We got tons of tanks and armored vehicles and stuff, helicopters for air support. We could give those troops in Syria air support from our jets. I mean, the flight time from an air base in Israel into 40 miles of Syria is 60 seconds. I mean, we could give them air support that would be phenomenal. Helicopters, jets, bombers. The MOAB bomb, by the way, has to be put on a C-130 cargo plane, and it's thrown out the back door, and it has a guidance system, it has a parachute, it goes on a pallet, and the pallet's ejected, it has a parachute, and it's guided. The other bomb that America could give them is a 5,000-pound bunker buster bomb that'll go down at least 100 feet. And what Iran does is they build a layer, they go down and they build a wall or the top of their bunker with heavy reinforced concrete. Then they leave several feet of space and they build another wall and this and that. This is an attempt to fool the bunker buster bomb into exploding before it gets down deep enough. Now, the problem with that is they can set the this 5,000-pound bunker buster bomb with a timed fuse. So once it breaks the surface, it goes so many seconds, and they can calculate. So it can go down about 100 feet, and then you'd probably have to send a second and a third one down. Some of their facilities seem to be like around 260, 280, up to maybe 325 or so feet down. So we could estimate it 300 feet. So you with these 5,000-pound bombs, you'd probably have to send a series of them. You could, of course, use the 30,000-pound bombs that America has, and that would probably do the job, one of those. So if America wants to bomb them, they could use the 30,000 pounders. If Israel wants to bomb them, they could be given the 30,000 pounders, which I doubt would ever happen. But America may give them some of these 5,000 pound bombs, maybe give them 50 or 100 or something like that. And they could go around and have a field day and drop these things, and they could drop the MOAB and stuff like that. To use the MOAB, the 22,000 pound bomb, they're going to have to take out a lot of radar and create a lot of destruction, because this goes on a completely unarmed aircraft, or pretty completely. It might have some missile defense systems, but the C-130 is not, it's a transport. So before they could fly this transport over there, they got to play wipeout on the radar and the anti-aircraft missile systems to make sure there's no threat. Then the MOAB comes, and that's it. And a lot of these 5,000 pound bombs can go up high. If you have a jet that can go like 35,000 feet up, even the radar is not going to hit that high. But Israel's not taking chances. They're going to knock out the radar and the missile systems to make sure they don't lose the C-130s and the crew and the people and everything else. So America could give Israel the 5,000 pounders that are advanced, and they could get the job done by then. But Trump doesn't want to do it. He wants us to do it. He's setting us up. He doesn't care what happens to us. How does America fall apart if Israel falls apart? No, nothing. He didn't care. He's not worried. That's not gonna, he'll go to sleep that night. Oh, we lost Israel. Okay, new era. Move on. That's it. They have meetings, discuss the implications, but it doesn't mean anything to him. He doesn't care. He seems to want to keep Israel around, but I don't see much going on. Hold on, I think somebody sent a prayer request in. Let me see. All right, we have a prayer request for it's a complicated name. Let me figure out how to do initials. AY, Alpha Yellow. Prayer request for Alpha Yellow. AY. That the Lord would show him if he should begin lawsuits, and if the answer is yes, Jehovah would guide him to the right lawyers. So for AY, Alpha Yellow, prayer request is that Jehovah would show him if he should pursue lawsuits, and if so, direct him to the right lawyers. Normally, we don't do well when we start lawsuits, but if people really rip you off, I suppose there's an exception for everything if they're completely doing something outrageous, but I tend to think it's best to stay away. I don't think you get a fair shake in any court in the world today. So I don't like that, but that would be the prayer request. I think there's other prayer requests. Let me make sure we get those. Hold on. I don't remember for sure, but I think we have some. Yes. EZ, Echo Zebra. EZ, Echo Zebra. Success with potty training. That's a different one. Echo Zebra, success with potty training. A Taurus request for GB, girl, boy. GB, Taurus request for GB, girl, boy. RG, Robert girl. RG, or let's say red girl. RG, red girl. Prayer request to get the right tenant for a rental unit. RG, red girl, get the right tenant for a rental unit. Okay. I'll do that later. So what's it going to take for the war to go on? Well, Netanyahu wants these 3 hostages back. Israel does not want to completely evacuate out of Gaza and then wait and see if the rest of the hostages will ever be returned. They're not that stupid. So there's a chance, a high probability that it'll blow up by around March 1st. Very high. I don't think Israel wants to proceed with that. They might. They don't do smart things frequently in Israel, so they might do it. I don't know. Okay? Jordan threatened war on Israel, and Netanyahu is dumb enough and evil enough to keep giving them water. Because he's not taking his orders from the Bible or from Jehovah or fearing Jehovah. So guess who he's taking his orders from? You're either with him or against him. So he ain't with him, so what does that tell you? He's against Jehovah. So yeah, he'll probably keep giving him the water. He's in dreamland. He's believing delusions, Netanyahu, Iran's going to be problems. Ukraine and Russia probably going to be a problem. Panama's been a problem. Egypt's a problem. This and that. So there's going to be some events that cause Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Egypt to turn against Israel. And I think we're going to see something that gets the Houthis, which is Yemen, which is Edom, to light up. And the Yemen army said they would be with the Houthis if Israel broke the ceasefire. And I think they will try to attack American ships, for sure, and probably Saudi Arabia, but maybe not. And Trump and Israel and other countries will probably attack the Yemen and wipe it out. And the same will happen to Iran. I don't know the exact pieces of the puzzle, but I am of the belief based on Jeremiah 49 that Iran will be destroyed and Edom, Yemen, will be destroyed before the Zechariah 12 siege. So we're looking very close on that. Now, the reason I want to explain to you is Trump can't continue for another month or two seeing more and more countries just laugh at him and ignore him. Okay? So he has to make a move. One likely move would be on Gaza because that would appear to Trump to be the safest move. That would light up Lebanon. It would possibly light up Hamas, but what the heck are they going to do anymore? And it would light up the Houthis, which would make Trump want to blow them up, and Iran. Iran is very worried that Trump wants to strangle them with sanctions. What Trump plans on doing is trying to figure out who Iran sells the oil to and sanctioning them to death. That's what he plans on doing. China's going to buy the oil and they're not going to care, and probably India will still buy it. They're not going to care because Trump's not going to do anything to China and India. So that's how that's going to go. So you're not going to get it done with sanctions. That I can tell you Trump's going to fail. I would say there's a 98, 99% chance that's going to fail. And then Trump's going to have to decide if he wants to live with Iran or take serious action against Iran. And the first level of serious action that would actually do some good is to have Israel go attack the Iranian ports, piers, and refineries where they transfer the oil. Hamas went out and called for protesters against Trump in America. That's how little they respect Trump. There's an Arab summit meeting to discuss Trump and Gaza. And guess where it's going to be hosted? In Saudi Arabia. Do you think Saudi Arabia went through with the $600 million of investments inside America after this fallout with Trump? I don't think so. I can't believe that. Saudi Arabia is not going to go on the Trump side of this thing, no. The government of Lebanon is weak, not smart, not really wanting to do anything against Hezbollah, not wanting to go to war with Israel, just trying to create a situation that's never going to happen. Netanyahu still never said he would not attack Gaza after the hostage exchange today. People are thinking that he might break the ceasefire after the 3 hostages come back. Maybe not even release the 600 or 900 terrorists, but he probably will. So if Israel bombs the Iranian nuclear facilities, you must remember it does not deactivate Iran even 1%. The only thing that's going to deactivate Iran is crippling their economy, which sanctions are never going to do it. They never have in the past. The only way you're going to get there is to blow up their ports and their piers and their refineries. And that could be what happens. Netanyahu has threatened to do that. I'm reading my notes. So the whole Arab League put Modi on their no friend list. So I don't know if Modi's going to stay with Trump after they did that. See, Modi can tell Trump, I can't afford to do that, but I'm still going to be your friend. See, Modi could make the Arab League happy and Trump happy at the same time, but he can't do what Trump wants him to do. I'm going to stop and see what went on with the hostage release now, because it's after 12 o'clock and that gives it enough time, and we'll see what happened. I'll do it while we're on the air. I'll use my social media, which is much faster than anything else. Let's see. We'll find out in a minute. Hamas has been bellyaching that they want motor homes, mobile homes, big trailers. Now, who do you think's going to live in these trailers before the Gazans do? All 20,000 Hamas will live in those before a single Gazan does. got as far as the hostages left Gaza and crossed into Israel territory, which means they're okay. Let me look for pictures to see what condition they were in. Hamas said, we broke Trump so he can learn not to mess with the Qassam Brigade terrorists. He demanded all of them, and we gave him 3 as we decided. You see what's happening with Trump? Trump is today, listen to me, already a laughing stock. Don't get all psyched up at how great Trump is. He's a man. He's already a laughing stock. If he doesn't make a military move, they're not even gonna, people aren't even gonna talk to him anymore. There's still 75 hostages left in Gaza. And our intel are telling us that they intend to use these bargaining chips for years, the hostages, as an insurance policy to bring Israel to its knees. And with Netanyahu, it looks like it's working, because he's not our friend. And his replacements aren't going to be either. You got to have the 2 witnesses as the judges in Zechariah 12:6. That's the only way this is going to change. So, what does Netanyahu do? He does what the unclean spirits tell him to do. What do you think he does? Oh, we only released, sorry, I need to correct, we only released 369 Palestinian prisoners for the 3 hostages. That's over 100 prisoners, terrorists in jail in Israel for each hostage. Roughly 123 terrorist pigs for each Israeli hostage. Do you got what Netanyahu did? Do you think he's on the up and up? How could you be that stupid? You can't just be that stupid. Okay? And what Netanyahu did, he put T-shirts on the terrorists that said, "We will not forget nor forgive." Gee, I'm sure that'll work. See what's going on? We got a yoke from within Israel, and we got a yoke from without Israel. One of the hostages, there's a picture of him sitting with his wife. She's all dolled up, which she should be, you know? She should be. That was doing her job. And she's sitting on his lap, and he's smiling, and, you know, it's good. That's good. We never hear anything from the ultra-Orthodox rabbis about what's going on here. They keep their mouths shut. Let me get another source here and see if we got anything. So I believe we gave them their prisoners and we got ours, and now we're back to the drawing board. And let's see what happens. Trump is giving Netanyahu all the green lights because he wants to play with his pipe dream of turning Gaza into a resort. Um, See, all this weakness that Trump is displaying is going to cause the launching of the sleeper agents and attacks and invasions in America. And Trump is not picking this up. Or if he is, he's not doing anything about it. I'd say Trump is pretty scared right now about what's going on in the world and the amount of enemies that he has, that America has. I'm looking for more information about this. If Trump attacks Gaza or he attacks Iran or he attacks the Houthis aggressively and seriously and extremely, in an extreme proportion, then he will immediately get the respect of the foreign nations back in a matter of minutes. If he doesn't do that, he'll never get it back, ever. His whole 4 years, which will never last, of course, of prophetic timing, but he'll never be taken seriously anymore outside the United States. Inside the United States, yes. Outside, no. So Trump's down to the wire. And he knows this. Iran can't do much to America, but it could lead to a big regional war, causing him to have to deploy a lot of military here, weakening America from the likes of Russia, China, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, Muslim nations, and so forth. There's a very high probability that the Houthis will light up if there's an attack on Iran. And that has to be addressed because they attacked the shipping, and Iraq may light up. And the American bases could come under jeopardy in Iraq and Syria. And American warships in the region and Trump's properties around the world could be attacked and all kinds of stuff, you know. If they try to assassinate Trump, they'll attack his properties if they can't get him. You don't know. They may have threatened him. They may have written him letters telling him they're going to do it. I don't know. So what do I think's going to happen? I think Lebanon's in danger of blowing up. Gaza's definitely going to blow up. The latest March 1st. I can't sell myself on Netanyahu, especially with Trump in office, agreeing to completely withdraw from Gaza without getting the hostages back. I think Netanyahu will tell them, we want all the hostages back before we pull out of Gaza. Hamas will say definitely not, and that's where they're going to hit an impasse. And then the wars will start up again. And that would happen probably before March 1st, because they're in negotiations now with Hamas in Gaza about phase 2, which requires Israel to completely withdraw. If Israel completely withdraws from Gaza, there will be a vote of no confidence in Israel. I'm quite certain, and I don't think Netanyahu wants to find out how that turns out. It's too dangerous for him, because then he wouldn't be prime minister. His court cases would accelerate, and he likely goes to jail, gets yanked out of office, everything else. Not that you're ever going to get another good one. You're not going to get a good, you'll get a different one, but you're not going to ever get a non-Satan-bought leader here or any other country. You're just never going to see it until the end of the age, which is found in Matthew 13 with the tares and the wheat. And it says in other places, and the end of the age and the age to come with everlasting life, which is Zechariah 12:10, when they see the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man. And when you go into Malachi 3, we don't read anything about the democracy, the IDF, the government, Netanyahu, none of that. We just see the two witnesses. So the government could already have been falling apart. We don't have all the little details, but we know it's going to happen. And the way I see it from here, it's very hard for me to picture Netanyahu saying, well, we'll withdraw from Gaza and then we hope you give us back the hostages. And I don't even think the public opinion of Israel in the polls would ever favor that, because the country of Israel, the population, is not interested in, oh, let's go out of Gaza and leave them alone. They're interested in getting the hostages back. And we don't trust these Muslim terrorists. So if they say they're not going to return the hostages until after we have a full withdrawal, the Israeli population is going to say that's not acceptable to us. We don't trust you to do that. And that's not going to destroy Netanyahu's support. And then the war will start up again. But the Houthis will get into it and they'll attack the American warships, and that could do it. But we need to see what happens. The situation here is very confusing, very bewildering, very hard to understand. And all along, we're in end times, and twists and turns will likely come, and things will pop up that were not expected. But bear in mind, Trump knows nobody respects him now. Like Rodney Dangerfield, the old comedian, who say, I can't get no respect, you know. That's how Trump is right now. And the only way Trump's going to get respect is to attack somebody. The most likely somebodies are Iran and the Houthis. And Bible prophecy in Jeremiah 49 shows they're both devastated. But with Iran, it's referred to as Elam back then, and it says destroyed by her enemies in plural, so it would be a conglomerate attack. Edom, I believe we do, but Trump may have a part in it. The Americans already had a part in bombing Yemen a few times, but that's the view from here. So I know it's going to happen, okay? I'm trying to tell you how it's going to happen. I don't, because we read it in the prophecy, so I know it's going to happen, but how, I'm trying to add to that. So that's what I think. I didn't hear anything about these hostages being emaciated, so I don't know. They didn't have enough time to fatten them up, but I don't know. So please pray for me. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should do. Hold on. No, I'm not getting anything from the Lord. So please pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, and joy and healing. And pray for our finances, and please pray for that document I'm waiting in the mail. I don't know what the heck happened to it. Please pray that I get that, and pray for the pray for the peace of Jerusalem, pray for better videos, and pray for each other, all the true believers, you know. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. At least you get to understand what's going on here in Israel. And you know, while there's a lot of people that like to focus on Ukraine and China and all that, the real action is an end times prophecy, and what's coming on the world is about the controversy with Zion, with Israel, with God and the nations over Israel. So this is the center of the action, believe it or not, Israel. So I send my Shabbat Shalom to all who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. Thank you.